So, hello everybody. My name is Jassi Oberai, and a. I would like to call myself a photographer because I do a lot of different kinds of photography. I do landscape, I do nature and wildlife as well, then portraits and fashion as well. So today's session is going to be on fashion photography. So I am a founder of Exploring Light, where we conduct a lot of workshops and photography tours as well. And this is probably the first time that I'm coming on joint platform of Lumix and Chiiz. Chiiz I have been associated with from the very beginning, if I remember it right. But I think I've now gotten the opportunity to come and speak on Chiiz platform. So, just to give you a brief, my journey into photography started very, very late, much beyond the digitalization of photography. So, I was never into the film era, so to say. So, do I feel good or bad? I would say that good in the sense that at least I could pick it up. And um, my sound is not very clear. My voice.
It is very clear, sir. Please.
All right. So somebody is saying that it's not clear. Okay. So, but the bad thing that I don't like about it is that I wish that I had joined early and had gotten the firm foundation that film photography gives you. So from that angle, yes. But I'm happy whenever I started. So I'm happy that I have made my journey kind of fruitful, and I did a lot of hard work in learning different aspects of photography. Now, today's session is about fashion photography lighting. Now, when we talk about fashion photography lighting, we also need to understand different aspects of uh, uh, basically the difference between fashion photography and beauty photography or a normal portraiture. What is the main difference? Lighting principles remain same. Lighting behaves same everywhere, whether it is portrait, whether it is fashion, whether it is beauty, whether it is landscape. The principles of lighting will always remain the same. So my way of understanding, the way I am going to take this session through is that I'll take you gradually. First, I'll share differences between fashion, beauty, and all. Then I will talk about tips about fashion photography. Um, then talking about the lighting principles. Then talking about what is the best lighting. So theoretical aspects will come first. Then I'll share different aspects of or different lighting setups, common lighting setups that are usually used, and then I will share some images that I have clicked, and will try and make that particular session very, very interactive, because instead of me talking about it, since I would have shared my knowledge about different lighting setups and how you see light, I would want that people who are watching this session or attending this session should come forward and share their thoughts. What do they feel? What kind of lighting was done? Because the idea is not to showcase my portfolio. The idea is to show that you learn some aspects of lighting or fashion photography through this session, and should be able to understand, when you look at an image, you should be able to understand and predict and share what kind of lighting setup was used. And obviously, once you share, then I will also be sharing about the actual lighting setup in each image, so that so somebody will be going wrong, that's perfectly all right. Somebody will go right, that's wonderful. So the idea is that through this session, we understand and take home understand some aspect of fashion photography and lighting as well. Now, the other part is that my request would be that whenever I'm going through the presentation, if you can if you can ask the relevant question on that particular slide then and there itself, it will help all of us. I'm continuously seeing this, the audio is not, so I don't know, something is wrong probably at somebody else's end. So, all right. So if you can ask the questions pertaining to that particular slide, please ask then and there itself. Not that I'll not be taking those questions at the end, but it becomes easy because we are right now there at that particular slide, and it is important that whatever questions are there in my mind can get answered there itself. Wherever you feel that you are not able to understand what I'm trying to say, please point it out, ask a question in Q&A, and so that I'm able to reiterate and reshare and re-explain everything that I am explaining. All right. So this is very, very important, and it is, if you do not ask any questions, then I'm going to hurry through the presentation because no questions are there. Then we would probably end up the presentation faster. So it all boils down to you as an individual. So let me start sharing the questions, the presentation. You are able to see this? Just a minute, let me just try and figure. Sorry. Just a minute. All right, so we are talking about fashion photography lighting. Nitish, I'm going to come to your question as the presentation, we move through the presentation. All right, so first is, what is the difference between portrait and fashion and beauty? I'm struggling with this space on top with the questions. Let me try and figure it out how to make it smaller. Let me just a minute. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So all right. So basically, even fashion, portrait is basically a broader word, and portrait is clicking images of people, and fashion and beauty both are images of people. So broadly speaking, both fashion and beauty are an integral part of portrait. But today we take separately because just for wider understanding of how do we define all these three. So portrait, it must capture the personality and expression and mood of the subject. Now it can happen, it can even be a beauty portrait, it could be a fashion portrait, it could be a street portrait, it could be a character portrait. So as I said, fashion and beauty also come under portrait as such. But sometimes, and the next two definitions probably separate fashion and beauty out of normal portrait that we talk about. And fashion photography is devoted to highlighting clothing and other fashion items. Because fashion is all about showcasing the clothes that somebody is wearing. So there's a brand which wants to sell its clothes, would want to create images from a photographer, from a fashion photographer, who can showcase the image, the right quality and aesthetics of that clothes line through his imagery that he's trying to do. And today, the most common form of fashion photography that we see in terms of clothing is, since e-commerce is at its peak right now, So everything is getting sold online. So they have to put images of those clothing being worn by models, and that also comes under fashion photography. Fashion photography is very wide range, but typically it is somewhere down the line. It's talking about some clothes that people wear or the models wear, and other fashion items as well. Now, beauty photography focuses on majorly the headshot with emphasis on models' facial features, because usually when we talk about beauty photography, it is done to be able to for the companies involved in the selling of beauty products like lipsticks or nail enamels or many more such items. They require the help of beauty photographers, and who will create beauty images, beauty portraits. Which are used in turn to be able to, for enabling those companies to be to sell the beauty items. All right. So this is a very broad differentiator, but lighting in each is very, very important. And my idea is that to first show you what are the theory behind light and what are the standard lighting setups, because until unless you understand that, you will not be able to do much. Now, one very important input and kind of a disclaimer at my end, which is that when you are talking about lighting on your own, you are in a studio, you want to light up, do the lighting setup for the fashion or beauty photography that you want to do, or you are outside in out location using natural light source, which I usually do quite a lot. And when you're doing that, then you will struggle if you only focus on what I'm trying to share as an initial part of the presentation, because then you will not be able to understand the lighting, but you would be focusing only on what I am trying to tell you or what others have told you. So what is important for you is that just take that as a pinch of salt, just understand what I'm trying to say, go out and experiment, because experimenting is the key. You cannot, when I say that light will be right in front of the subject or the model, that does not mean that every time you have a model, you put the light in front of the subject. That will not work. You go to the angle, you go to this angle, you go to height, you bring it lower, and then see the result. And only then you will be able to figure out and understand how lighting behaves when it falls on a subject. That is very, very important. All right. So let me move ahead. So one question that's been asked by Adit is that which lighting is better for fashion photography, natural or artificial? Let me say both, because it all depends upon what mood you want to create. There's nothing called good or bad or better or worse. It is based on the requirement. However, if you ask me, and I will show you through my images as well, I am very fond of clicking in natural light, sometimes without any reflector as well, and sometimes only with the natural light and reflector or diffuser. So nothing beyond that. And I enjoy doing it, but it all depends upon what you want to create, or let's say if you're shooting for a client, what is the demand, what is the concept that you're trying to create. So sometimes the natural light will look better, and sometimes work better, or sometimes the studio light will work better. All right. Now, broader tips on fashion photography, because when you are trying to create a fashion portfolio, when you're trying to create images of fashion and doing fashion photography, there are few things that you have to look and keep in mind, which I have realized over a period of time that most fashion photographers, when they are starting out, they focus too much on the aspects like camera, lens. Yes, they need to be focused upon because you are a photographer. So you can't click images without a camera. So you can't click images without a camera. That is important. But since you are doing fashion photography, you must understand other aspects of fashion photography, which is following. So let me elaborate each of them. what look are you going for? So is it a girl next door kind of look? Is it gothic? Is it sexy? It all depends upon the concept. So you have to have that in mind. And that is the first initial thought that has to be zeroed in. Your research has to start with this, because until and unless you are very clear about this, you will mess up, because things are not going to work. Based on this information, now you will pick up your model, because a model has to complement your look. So girl next door, model for the girl next door look is going to be different than model for the gothic look. And even for the e-commerce type, the model will be totally different. Now, based on this decision, again, you will choose the clothes. Sometimes the clothes is given by the agency, the company which is wanting you to shoot. So if that is given by the company, now you will start with that, and now you will choose. If there's a sari shoot, then you will choose the model accordingly. If there's a Western dress that is being given as clothes, then your model choice will be different. And then based on that, you will further choose the cosmetics, the jewelry, the hairstyling. Obviously, here you will require a makeup artist and a stylist, hairstylist, and stylist as well. So, but based on couple of aspects, one is the look that you're going for, or the clothes that you have been given by the client. Based on that, rest of the decisions have to be taken. The location as well, the decision has to be taken based on inputs from the client. Now you decide what story you want to tell, because let us say it's a simple e-commerce kind of a shoot, which is majority of the fashion photographers today are doing that. Nothing wrong in it as far as it is giving you money and satisfaction. But there you don't really have to work too much on the storytelling and all, until unless you are being paid handsomely. Until unless it is not just another single light setup, multiple images kind of a shoot, that you create one setup and you shoot 100 images wearing a model wearing 100 different clothes in the same lighting setup. And unless that is the case, then obviously you don't do anything. Otherwise, you have to work on the storyline. So don't just place a girl next door in a grunge location unless it tells you a story. So there has to be a concept, and everything that you present has to go as per the concept that you are trying to create. Now, try and understand every photography. When we talk about commercial photography, and fashion photography is not any different than that, is about selling a fantasy. What does it mean? It means that there's a client who's given you a job and you are clicking the images, and the viewer who's looking at it, he must be fantasized to such an extent that he gets up after looking the image and wants to do a purchase of the item that you created the photographs for. That is very, very important, because until unless your photography does that, your photography will fail and the client will not get business, and eventually client will stop spending money, because is a lot of spend that is going to happen is not fructifying into the actual sales. So you are in a way responsible to do photography in such a way that this somebody who's trying to sell it is trying to sell it as a fantasy to people who are looking at those images. Every aspect of a photography should be selling that fantasy as a fantasy as it relates to your chosen product or your story. It is very, very important. Don't just hurry into everything, because just live that. Let it sink in. This is important. Most people ask me that they have been into photography, fashion photography for some time, but they are not getting good clients, or they are not able to hike their prices. The answer probably lies here. Do you work hard to even create your concept and sell it to your client? Do you even live that moment before you're trying to get into creation mode for a minute? Imbibe yourself into that. Do you do that? If the answer is yes, then then probably you need to look at some other aspects. Probably you're not catering to what client wants, and you're trying to cater your own storyline without trying to find out what he wants. So there could be multiple reasons, but this could be main one reason that you are now falling out of demand, because you are failing to, your images are failing to influence a potential buyer. That is important. So once you have a story, pick up your location, make it fit the story. And if you want to do it outside, and if it is a private property, then get the permissions, necessary permissions, written permissions, not just verbal permissions. Now, you will say, why am I talking about this? Because this is about fashion. So let me promise you, beyond this slide, I'm not going to talk about all these aspects unless you have some specific question which I can answer. Now comes one of the most important steps, which is like picking up your model, because model has to be very, very, until and unless you could be a very good photographer, but if the model is not able to emote well or able to pose well, I am sorry, you've lost the battle then and there itself. So try and pick up a model which fits your theme, because that is important. Pay special attention to the quality of the skin, the facial structure, the body type. It all depends upon what you are trying to create and what the client, so sitting with the client if you're into commercial. But if you're trying to build your portfolio, then also it becomes very, very important that all these things are taken care of. Someone who's pretty in person doesn't always photograph well. Yes, I have seen many such instances. And let me recite one very interesting story as well here, and I think that will bring home the point. Now, the story is that I was in Mumbai, and I was to do a fashion shoot. Fashion photography workshop was to be conducted. This happened almost 6-7 years back, and the workshop, unfortunately, for some reason that I live in Delhi, so for some reason I could not go to Bombay to meet the model and choose the model in advance. So everything happened over exchange of images and portfolio of the model. And finally, I decided and selected one particular model, which looked fabulous, amazingly good. And so all done, I'm there waiting in the studio early morning, and there's this girl walks in. The makeup artist is there already, and both of us are sitting together. And there's a thin girl walks in, very short height, and since she and walks in, and I somehow didn't feel that she's a model, and I asked her, "What do you want from us?" And she said, "Sir, I'm a model." And I was a little taken aback that she looked way too ordinary. And now nothing could be done. So I was, in a way, slightly disappointed in my mind that how I ended up choosing such an ordinary looking model. But little did I realize that that it is being beautiful, looking beautiful in actual, in real, is totally different than looking beautiful in photographs. And so that is why we call somebody is a photogenic. This word actually comes from there, and I have experienced this. So don't just go by the physical looks of look for the portfolio, compare both, and also compare the tantrum ratio also, because that is also important. You have to shoot with the model for quite some time. All right. And then sign up the model and all do. So don't work alone. This is important. Have a team of assistant, stylist, makeup artist, hairstylist, and whatever, because ultimately you are just a photographer, and you cannot be doing styling. You cannot be, ideally, you should not even be struggling with setting up lights if they are to be set up at awkward positions, because it should not so happen that after half an hour of setting up all those lights, you are too tired and too demotivated to even do photography. All right. So I hope I'm making sense. And so beyond this, we will not talk about all the business aspects unless you have some question. I'll certainly ask. We'll take those and answer. Now, let us get into the lighting. Let us jump into the lighting. All right. Okay, now there are some questions. Are color gels helpful for portrait photography? Yes, Anirudh, they are very helpful. Strobes versus HSS flash. Let me share that in a while because I am talking about it, Janish. How to choose softbox type, whether it is parabolic? I'm coming to that. It's too early for this question right now. Okay, basically outdoor photography के लिए okay, what is the content of model release? Okay, let me start going through the presentation, and a lot of questions will get answered there. What is the best lighting for fashion photography? Now, this is the question some of you have asked indirectly here. What is the best lighting? When I say this, there are multiple questions in one question. It could be, is outdoor lighting, natural lighting is best, or is studio lighting best? So I have already answered that part. I am very fond of natural lighting because I believe I come from that thought process where I feel that because I've learned it this way, and try and understand what I'm trying to say, that I will need additional source of light when I am falling short of the available light. So let us say I need X amount of light in my room or outside, wherever. And I check my camera settings and all, and I realize that even with the widest open aperture, whatever settings that I have to keep in mind, I am not getting enough light. So what will I do? I will not replace light now. So I will just add up that much extra light which is needed to give me the exposure that I want. Now that will have the ambient light as well into that scene, and fill or the flashlight or strobe light also. They both will balance each other, because I believe that ambient light is what will help you create the mood. That's the easiest way to help you create the mood in the image that you want. The biggest mistake most photographers make initially is that they start making the artificial light, it could be flash or it could be strobe, so strong that ambient light goes away, and now your image almost looks flat or washed out. So nothing wrong in it if you're trying to understand and experiment, but try and move away from this practice as soon as you can, or otherwise that will work only if you are working as per a concept, and that concept requires that kind of lighting setup. Otherwise, it's always better that you have both ambient light, which is the natural available light, and the flashlight, which is the artificial light, coming together. I think that is very, very important. All right. Now, within natural, and I have already spoken, now coming to what is the best light for fashion photography, whether it is speed light or studio strobes. Now let us understand the characteristics of both, where speed light will work better and where it will not work better, or where studio strobes will work the best. So try and understand, let us say speed lights and studio strobes, both can be used inside the studio. And why I will not choose speed light and why I will choose speed light is something to understand. Speed lights best, or flash, so to say, the flash is an easy word to use here. So let us say flash. Now flash is, the main advantage of using a flash is its portability. It is lightweight, it is easy to handle, it is easy to carry. So if I'm shooting in a studio, it works. If I'm shooting in a makeshift studio outside, on location studio, it works perfectly well because I don't have to carry large boxes with the strobes. If I'm shooting in outdoor location, it could be a forest where there is no facility of the kind of to be using plugs and all external source of electricity to manage those strobes, then flashlight will come in very, very handy. But what is the disadvantage here? The disadvantage is very, very clear that if you look at the flash head, it is very small, because that is why it is portable. That is why it is lightweight. So that means that with the best of the flashes also, the reach of light is limited. And because of the shape of the head also, the way flash throws light and creates that light and shadow effect on the face of your model will also be very, very different as compared to what is done by strobe. So both images are side by side, so you can easily understand what I'm talking about. Strobe has kind of different modifier which is attached. Now you have modifiers for flashes as well. But see, when the flash itself has its limitation in the amount of light it throws and the distance to which it will throw the light adequately, even the modifiers will not be able to really enhance that limitation or improve upon that limitation. So understand this aspect very well. And so in terms of strobe, the advantages are that, and another disadvantage with flash is that it has a slower kind of recharge time, recycle time. So it is slower. So if you are trying to click fast, subsequent images one after another, then flash might not be the right option for you. And so most flashes I'm talking about, there are some flashes which are coming out good. For example, Godot's AD200 and AD200 Pro, this is a flash, we can call it, and it comes with HSS. Now we have one round head flash also, which has come from Godot's, which produces much better light compared to the rectangular shaped flash head. So these companies have come and they are trying to improve the kind of flashes they are making, and they are also working upon the throw that it has and the quicker recycle time. So you just understand and compare what you want and choose accordingly. Now, in terms of studio strobes, it has every advantage. The major disadvantage is that most of the studio strobes, almost 90 to 99% of the studio strobes which are available, they are not battery operated, which means that you will need to have a electricity source somewhere, which means that you cannot shoot them with them, use them in your shoot where shooting is in outdoor location without any provision of electricity. Then you can't use them. Then there are different kinds of strobes that come, which are battery operated. For example, Godox has AD400 Pro and AD600 Pro, even AD200 Pro. All these flash strobes are actually battery operated, so you can use them. So, but they are bulky. They have a lot of weight. So if you are traveling on far off location, where you have to carry every kind of equipment with you, then it becomes little complicated. How will you carry such big lights? And so these are the advantages, disadvantages. There's nothing called a perfect light. The day we have that, that is the day that every lighting company will go out of business. So try and understand what I'm trying to make you understand. Because here, nothing is the best. It is trying to fit and pick up what suits your requirement and budget. I think that is most important. Now, coming to what is the content of the model? I'll come to that. Public places, whenever you want to wish to shoot in public places, Mansi, you have to probably take permissions, necessary permissions, especially because street photography in public places is all right. And most of the places do allow photography in India, especially, but they will not allow any commercial type of photography like fashion photography where money is involved. So that is where they would want some part of the money that you are earning. All right. So, okay, now let us move ahead. Now, another thing is, what is the best, strobe lights or continuous lights? Now, again, there's nothing called best. You just have to understand the limitations now here. Now, strobe lights are they've almost worked like flash. So they will shoot one fire once, help you create one image, then they'll recycle with whatever recycle time that they have and ready for the next shot. And that is how you continuously keep shooting using normal strobe light. Whereas now continuous light is fast making its inroads into fashion photography, mainly because that they really help you shoot without too much of hassle of recycle and all those things. It has its own limitations though. So I have here shared the image of Godok's FV200, which is kind of an hybrid light. And hybrid light means it works both as a flash strobe light and as a continuous LED light. So these kinds of lights are also coming. This is one of the very initial kind of innovative light in the market, and I'm sure many more companies, and including Godox, will come out with better versions of it. Not that this is a bad version. This is wonderful, wonderful light. But continuing to this continuous light, I still remember very clearly that I had invited one mentor from Italy almost 7-8 years back as a Hasselblad workshop. So we were conducting Hasselblad workshop, and he came as a Hasselblad mentor. So Hasselblad was the camera used, and very interestingly, in those days, we had in India still not seen LED lights that time, or what we had seen was the very poor version of LED light, LED continuous light. And he was carrying very small, sleek LED panels, handy LED panels. So he would hold it. That would have a battery, rechargeable battery at the back. He would hold it at a direction on the and throwing the light on model's face, and he will click. That was so easy to handle, and they have been doing it from that time, and we have now have the opportunity of continuous lights, and many photographers are opting for that because of its lightweight and portability, and yet able to give you quality light without having to bother too much about electricity, um, power supply being available at that particular spot or not. So they are very versatile, but you still have to get used to working with continuous light. All right. So just try out these days. You get these lights on very cheap rate at rental. Go out, hire one, and use it to figure out what you like the most. Which strobe is good, 8200 or 8400, or what did you ask? I'm sorry, just a minute. Or 8600. Okay. Let me. So my preference. Let me share my thoughts on this. 8200 comes in a different category, Janish. The category is that it is portable. It is almost like a flash with interchangeable head, flash head. It has HSS as well. So it is used where portability is the main concern. For example, wedding photographers, a lot of wedding photographers are now opting for this. It has sufficient power, and you can hold two flashes or put it on a bracket also, and then use it, making the power to 400 watts. But when I compare 400, 8400 to 8600, my preference will always be 8600 because I can always reduce its intensity or power. I can, however, not increase the intensity and power of 8400. If I need more power, I cannot make 8400 work at the power of 8600. But I can easily make 8600 work operate at the power of 8400. So my preference is always going to be that light which has more juice, which has more power, which has more wattage, and at the same time it offers me the flexibility to reduce the power. If that is possible, then I will opt for that, because these lights are expensive, and I would not like to buy another light just because this power of this light is falling short. I hope that answers it well. Okay. Now, light modifiers. What are these light modifiers? As the word says, they help you modify the light. Okay. What do you mean by modifying? They help you shape the light. Now, let me go back. What you see in front of these two lights is these round reflectors that are attached in front. They are light modifiers. Okay. So these are very, very important. These are very, very important, because without these somehow help you shape the light based on a certain concept and control the light in one of the most easy and beautiful ways. What are the different kinds of modifiers that we usually get? Soft boxes or diffusers. Now, there are different shapes to it. There could be even strip box. There could be octa boxes. There could be deep octa, but they are all soft boxes. Now, if you look at these, they are different sizes. So you can choose the size depending upon your space constraint, number one. If you have to shoot only in your studio, then space constraint becomes very, very important criteria to really understand and buy accordingly. And then how do they finally shape the light? So a strip box is also a soft box that will light up on the whole length of the model. A squarish small soft box is one of the cheaper versions of affordable versions of soft boxes. They are most widely used by everybody who's starting to beginning to get into fashion photography or any kind of strobe photography. So that they are useful. Then, but if you want a better kind of soft box, which somehow helps you wrap around the light around the model, then we are talking about octas and deep octas and all those things. And diffusers, obviously, there are close diffusers in between where the light panel is at the back or the bulb is at the back, and then within those soft boxes there are different levels of diffusing that you put and you manage diffusion. Can we use speed light with octabox? Will the power suffice? I would not dare do that, because until unless there is a soft box, octabox, probably no, that is not the right kind of box, because it will not give you the right kind of result, though there is reflective surface inside, but still. So my recommendation, there are soft boxes available for speed lights as well. So you can check them and probably use them. I hope I've answered that, Vinod. Okay. So then next is umbrellas. Now umbrellas I have seen are the most widely used light modifiers because of their ease of use, number one, and number two, the way they throw the light. So light will go into the umbrella and then it will throw it back, spread into on your subject. Now, I am not very fond of umbrellas, because umbrellas do not give you too much of control over light, because since it throws the light in different directions, it's very difficult to control where the light should go and where the light should not go. And then you will have to start getting into other different modifiers and all, which are not modifiers, kind of cutters, light cutters that you have. So you have to start blocking light cutters and blockers, that you have to start blocking those lights. I'm not a very good fan of umbrellas, but if you know, and if you know how to control light through umbrellas, by all means use it. But understand that most of the umbrellas, when they used in their traditional way, they create flat lighting. And unfortunately, that's not the right kind of light that you would want, or high contrast light. Now there's barn doors. Now barn doors are small piece of metal kind of flaps that are put around that light, which will help you focus the light fall in one particular direction. All right. Grids and snoots, they help you. Snoot is a long tube-like thing which helps you focus the light, focused ray of light falling on the face. Grids help you further change the minute direction of light by choosing a different angle of grid that are available, and different grids are available in different angles or degrees that you can say, and depending upon the degree, either it bends the light less or it bends the light more. But they are beautiful light modifiers. If you do not want the light, if you are probably shooting on using octa, then the light throw will be very far and it will probably light up your background also, even if you don't want. Then in that case, when you use a grid along with that, it will help you control that throw which is spilling over the background of the model. Gels. So there was one question asked on gels. Let me just a minute. Just a minute. The gels, there was one question was, are color gels helpful for portrait photography? The answer, Anirudh, is yes, because through gels, we try and give different, gels are two kinds now. Okay, now I'm not covering gels here in this presentation, so it is important that I answer it here itself. So one is that you need to balance out one color. So color neutralizing gels are also there. If you want to cut down the warm color, which is there outside, and you want to cut down that using a gel, you can do that using appropriate gels. Then there are different gels which are used to kind of give that color light falling on face or the entire body in a particular way. So you can use them. There are gels available along with certain types of flashes or strobes as well. For example, Godox does have options of gels even with AD200 if you want to buy their modifier kit for AD200. So you will be able to get that. Then the gels are available otherwise as well with whatever you want to fit. If you don't get anything, then the simplest is try and buy from a stationery shop colored cellophane sheets. They work beautifully. I think they are the cheapest option of gel, and they are very, very useful. Very, very useful. How to choose a softbox type, whether it's black skin, white skin, parabolic? I didn't get it. Just a minute. Let me try and figure out. Whether it is black skin, white or parabolic, beauty dish, etc. How to choose perfect one? I didn't get this question, Ahmed, because your two things are getting mixed up. One is that you are asking how to choose softbox, then you are also asking, okay, you are asking softbox for a particular color of skin. There's nothing like that, Ahmed. There's nothing like that. There is no softbox which is available for a particular skin tone. You just have to control, because they are light shapers. They are not light. They will not help you get the right exposure that will be possible only through the metering mode that you choose while clicking. So that is important. Okay. Photographers use black door also to cut light. There's nothing called choose. Try and understand one thing, Rahul, that when we are trying to block light or cut light, even if you don't buy any cutter or blocker, you can use any neutral color blocker. It could be a cardboard piece. It could be a black sheet which is available, black colored sheet which is available in most of those stationery shops. Anything will do. There's nothing called, there's no tip here. All right. Should we move ahead? Okay. Now, understanding light is very, very important, because if you don't understand light, then everything becomes useless. I can give you, which I will also, I can tell you what is Rembrandt light. I will also show you what is the setup. We can go on and on. Today I am doing the workshop. Tomorrow somebody else will come and do the workshop. Tomorrow you will go somewhere else and attend the workshop. Nothing is going to work till you start understanding light. Now this part is most important. All right. So one is hard and soft light. And how do you see hard and soft light? Basically, so the second point that I'm mentioning here, shadow or highlight, if the shadows are abrupt and sharp, kind of, they look sharp, they don't look diffused, that means the light is hard light. If they are gradual, if you know that there is a shadow, but it's not appearing very, very strong and very, very defined edge, then it's a soft light. So first you have to understand that. But how do you create that hard light and soft light? First is, if the light size is smaller. Now, when I'm talking about, I could have written small. Small is not right understanding. When I'm writing smaller, it means it is with respect to your subject. So, mera face agar itna bada hai, then the light size has to be smaller than my face. It cannot be this, and you say it is still smaller than another light source which is bigger than this. All right, so that is not how you understand and pick up or decide light. So light size smaller with respect to, it's always with respect to your subject, with the model, the face, or whatever. So your subject, basically. When it is smaller, it is hard light. When it is larger, it is soft light. Now, let me give you an example here. When the sun is shining bright and there are no clouds in the sky, you feel the light to be very, very strong. That is hard light. All right. Now you will say the sun is very bigger, but it appears to be very small because of its distance. So I'm coming to the other part as well later on, but try and understand. But the moment there are clouds in the sky, now those clouds are making almost like a softbox. So they're spreading the light evenly. Now the light source has become larger. Now the entire coverage of cloud is actually making it define the light source size. Now that is creating a soft light. I hope now you probably understand. If there's a question, please ask now. Shadows and highlights, if the shadows or highlights are abrupt, it is a hard light. So, and if it is gradual, it is soft light. So if you have to create hard light, then you ensure that the shadows are abrupt. If you are trying to create a soft light, then you have to ensure that they are gradual. Types of sunlight, if it is direct, as I just mentioned about the sun, then it is hard light. If it is overcast or shadow, overcast is clouds, then it is soft light. Types of flash when we talk about, if it is direct, so if there's a on-camera flash, every entry-level camera comes with a pop-up flash. Now that is very small also, so that will create hard light, and it throws the light directly on the subject usually. Then also it creates hard light. But if you bounce that light from some other surface, for example, I'm using external flash and I bounce it from the roof or from the side wall, then the entire size of the roof becomes my light source, and this light size becomes larger. Then it helps you create softer light. All right. All right. So let me just understand which questions. Size of the softbox, I don't know what the name is, some strange 1FJ3. Size of the softbox depends upon what kind of light you want to create. The smaller the softbox, staying on this slide itself, try and understand. Smaller size softbox will create hard light. Larger softbox will create soft light. Okay, so you decide accordingly. Which reflectors to use doesn't really matter. It's a matter of convenience, which you can carry. Mostly we use circular kind of reflector, which is foldable, and we can use it in studio. We can carry it with us whenever we are going out. All right. Off-camera flash settings and what kind of flash is required in off-camera. Flash settings. What kind of flash is required in off-camera? Any kind of flash is required in off-camera. Initially, I showed you there one small, normal, standard-looking flash. That is also possible. When you want to go into AD200, that is also a flash. It all depends upon what you want. So anything which can be used remotely without putting it on the hot shoe of the camera, that is an off-camera flash, and that will work equally well. How to understand shadows and highlights? I'm coming to that probably. So when I share those examples of different lighting setups, you will know. Nitesh, I'll come to this question a little later. Softbox and reflector. All right. I think Anirudh, your basic. Okay, now let me. Softbox is helping you soften the light and make the light spread even. That is the basic use. It's a light modifier. Though reflector is also kind of light modifier, but its use is slightly different. When I want to use a fill light, when I want to fill the shadows on face or body without using any second light, then I will use a reflector, which will position in such a way that the light from the main light, key light, falling on that will reflect back onto the face. So that is the purpose. I am not very familiar with underwater shoots, so I will not have the answer, because that's a different kind of photography. Probably today is also not the session, and I've never done it. All right, so let us move ahead. Now we have understood about hard and soft light. Now there is something very important, and while talking about it, we have also discussed about light size. So small size or large size. We have also spoken about shadows or highlights, and types of sunlight. Is it direct or overcast, or types of flash, direct or bounced. Now comes the most important part, which is the distance and apparent light source. So this is very, very important. Distance with respect to the subject. All right. If the closer the light source to the subject, light source is closer to the subject, it produces softer light. Why? Why? Why does it do that? Let's say this is the size. If you can see, this is the size of the light. And this is the size of the face. If I'm far, this light source is very small as compared to the subject, which means going by the previous slide, it will produce hard light. Now I bring this light source closer to the subject's face. This is suddenly, because of its position and distance, it appears to be a larger light source. That means it will create softer light. Softer as compared to when you go far. That means any light source which is far off from your subject will create hard light. All right. That is the main reason why sun produces very hard light. Closer light source will also have one challenge, that it will give you uneven light. Uneven means it is not equally distributing, because let's say light source comes very close to the face, it will start creating hot spots on the face. Part of the face which is right in front of the light will have brighter areas, and as you go behind, it will start giving you patches of shadows. But we can use it to our advantage as well, because it is helping you create shadows because of sharp fall off of light. So how you use it is very, very important. Closer the light source will also have a brighter light, because now it is very close, so it's not losing its intensity. If it goes far, I will talk about it later. If we go far, then the intensity of light goes down. If you are not able to understand this, do one experiment. Pick up a bulb or pick up a torch, which is battery operated, and throw the light from the torch on somebody's face from far off. It will be even light and it will be dimmer light. But as you bring the torch closer to the face of the person, it will be uneven, it will be brighter as well. All right. Now, how do we manage shadows? I've seen many people struggle with managing shadows. People have been able to figure out how to manage highlights. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Managing highlights is through diffusers and all. I'm trying to talk because this is technical. This you have to understand, especially when we are using fill light. So what is fill light? There are three. So two main lights are there. One is key light. Key light is the main light which is lighting up your model. Now, when we talk about, and that when light will fall on the subject's face, in the opposite direction, it will create a shadow. Very basic understanding of how light works. Now, that shadow you might not want, because if it's a beauty shot, you want to remove all those shadows. How will you remove those shadows? You will have to use a second light. When you use that, it will remove the shadows, because it will fill those shadows, and that is why it is called fill light. And how you use them is very, very important, and it all depends upon what you want to achieve through that. When we are talking about, so that is where fill light ratios come into picture. Fill light ratios. When we are using fill light, and the ratio is 0:1, which means there is no fill light that is being used. Only key light is there, so whatever shadows are created, they remain on the face. No fill light, 0:1. That's possible, you want to retain it. Then we talk about weak fill light. Weak fill light means you want the shadows to remain, but you still do not want to, you want the shadows to go, but not fully. You want them to be seen. You do not want to eliminate them, or you do not want to dull them. All right. That is when you use a weak fill light, which is the ratio of 1:8. So 1:2. One is any range in between that. 1:2 means half the intensity of key light. 1:8 means eighth 1/8 of the intensity of key light. When we use the ratio of 1:2 or 1:1, we are using strong fill light. With 1:1, what we are saying is we are keeping the power of fill light equal to that of key light. So when we use key light, whatever shadows it is creating, we will use the fill light in the same power and we will fill those shadows completely. That means there are no shadows now. All right. So you need to understand these ratios, because when you use them, then you will be in a position to get the best. Bhaumik, good afternoon. If you have some questions, please ask. Otherwise, yeah. Going ahead, these principles of light will never change. This is the behavior. This is how light works. And this is not how light works in your studio. This is not how light works outside. This is how light works every time you have some light source creating light. It could be a torch, it could be a bulb, it could be a tungsten bulb, it could be a tube light, it could be anything. It could be a strobe light, it could be anything. All right. Light travels in straight line, period. It is not, it does not change its path. It does not so happen that I point the light source in one direction and it will automatically move to the direction where my model is standing. Light travels in straight line. So that is one aspect. Subject receives less light as the distance to the subject receives less light as the distance to the light source increases. As you move away from the subject, the intensity of light falling on the subject goes down. Larger the light source relative to the subject, softer the light. These three principles will never change. I'm repeating these because this is important. This will help you understand light in a much better way than anything else. What is fill light? Fill light, read me, is whatever helps you fill the shadows and reduce the intensity of shadows and darkness of shadows using an alternate source of light. You can use a second light or you can even use a reflector to throw back the light where the shadows are. That is called fill light. All right. Outdoor shoot with only one camera flash, why not? You can do that. Okay. Common light setups. Now, as I had started sharing this is very, very important. So this is very, very important to understand. But try and understand all fashion photography or fashion images that you are creating. They are not done only using these setups. These are very commonly used setups which people have been using for ages now, for many years now, right from the beginning that these lighting setups were invented. But you will improve as a fashion photographer when you start experimenting with the different angles and with variations of these. That is important. So, but try and understand at least what these common lighting setups are. One is the paramount light. Now, paramount light is also known as the beauty light or the butterfly light, the glamour light. There could be any word that you choose. Why paramount? Because it was first used in Paramount Studios. There was a Paramount studio in Hollywood. They used it for the first time, and that is how people started recognizing that kind of light setup as Paramount light setup. Now, it is also called butterfly lighting because it kind of creates, I'll show you an example. It kind of creates a small shadow under the nose, which looks like a butterfly. It is also used glamour lighting or beauty lighting because it is mostly used to shoot models and bring out the beauty in them. All right. Basically, if you see the diagram, your camera is right in front of the subject and light source is above the camera and slightly above the head of the model, right in front of the face and throwing light at a slight direction onto the face. Now, when the light comes from slight height, the nose shadow will get created on the upper lip. All right. Now, mostly people use different modifiers. The best modifier for this is Beauty Dish, and you can look for it, and that's the best way it will throw the light on the face. If you look at this image, the butterfly shaped shadow is getting created right under the nose. This is because the light source is coming from right at the slightly above the head, pointing downwards, almost at 45 degrees angle, and that is helping you create that. Now, if you don't want that, and that also is creating a shadow on the neck. This is an example I have picked up because I wanted to show you the exact shape of the shadow getting created. Most of the time, you will not see these shadows so prominent in an image, and because you would want to remove them, because this is every image that you create is not an example image. It is not where you see to the client, see, I've used paramount lighting. It doesn't work. You diffuse the shadows. So the best way to diffuse the shadows is to use reflector or a fill light. Best is reflector right under the chin. So light is here, right under. So the model can hold the reflector. The light will fall on that and reflect back and fill these shadows. All right. So this is very important. And this is one of the most widely used lighting system for beauty setups. That means headshots of models. Especially they are used when you want to, somebody is trying to sell the beauty products, or even when you're trying to create a conceptual beauty shoot. All right. Then inverse square law. Okay, unfortunately, I've not included that in the presentation, but yes, I will answer this. I intend to answer this about inverse square law. How to manage shadows, Rohit? Try and understand. Forget fashion photography right now for the time being. You are standing under a street light. Okay? Street light is falling from one direction, and that is creating a shadow on the road wherever you are standing on the opposite direction. How will you manage those shadows? Let us say if you have to remove those shadows, what will you do? You will need to bring another light, which practically in terms of street light it is not possible, but yes, if it is possible, then what will you do? You will bring another light which is equally as strong or slightly dull, depending upon what kind of shadows you want to let them be there, from the opposite direction. They will fill those shadows. They'll either make it lighter or will remove that completely, depending upon how strong you're using the second light intensity. All right. This is how you manage shadows. You have to use another set of light, either direct light or through reflector, whatever. But light has to fall on shadows so that it looks dull, or even if you want, you can remove that shadow. That is how we manage shadows. Okay. I'll come to inverse square law. This is important. I'll talk about that. Now, loop lighting. Loop lighting is a very slight variation between variation from the traditional beauty lighting, which is paramount lighting, which I just shared in previous slide. Now in this, if you see, if I go back, you see the source of light is right in front of the subject and camera also being in front. When we come here, the light source has moved to one direction, camera remaining there. Now it could move to this direction or it can move to the other direction. It all depends upon from which angle you want to shoot. But then what will happen is it creates kind of a loop. If you look at here, there's a loop. If you see my cursor, there's a loop getting formed in one direction under the nose. That means light source is somewhere here in this direction. When the light source is coming, then this loop of shadow is getting created, plus shadow formation is happening here as well. Now in the previous image, there was this butterfly shape was getting formed, shadow was getting formed because light was right from front. When we move the light to a different direction, then this happens. It creates kind of a loop. This is a variation, and you can use any variation. It does not really matter as far as you are learning and you are adopting. All right. Okay. Now moving on. Rembrandt lighting. Now, Rembrandt lighting is very interesting lighting setup, and I would recommend if you want to understand light, there's go back. I don't know which age group all the participants are, so I have no clue. But if you are young, and if you've not seen old black and white Indian movies, go and watch them. They will give you a lot information about how lighting was used, because mostly they're black and white. So the way light affects the face is very prominently visible. Now, Rembrandt lighting, Rembrandt is also called 45-degree lighting, but it creates a kind of a triangle under the eye, one of the eye, either here or here on the cheek, basically. But the name came from the famous Dutch painter. His name was Rembrandt. And in his paintings of portraits, he used to create this kind of a effect of light, which later on photographers use certain setup through which they can achieve a triangle of light getting formed on the cheek right under the eye. It could be very harsh shadow or it could be diffused. It all depends upon what you want to shoot. All right. For this, the subject is slightly at an angle. Camera is still right in front of the subject, and light is falling from one direction of the face and from a slightly higher angle, not very high, slightly higher angle. So what happens is part of the face starts blocking the light, which will help you create shadows in certain areas of the opposite cheek. This side, if there's the light here, then this side of the face is getting the highlight of a triangle shape highlight and shadows. But if you use the light from this direction, then this formation will happen on the other side. This is important to understand. And this is very interesting. Some people use single light to create that. Some people use two lights. Some people even use multiple lights to create this. It all boils down to you. I am a very lazy person, so I try and achieve everything with one or two lights. Placement, I'm already talking about it, Janish. As I talk about these, I am talking about it. For example, when I went here, I said, coming from here, the light has to be slightly higher. That is the position of light. When I come here, it goes at a direction and still high because the shadow still has to get formed. Shadow coming under the nose, that means light is falling from the top. If I create the light, position the light here, it will create a shadow in the opposite direction. So I'm talking about the positioning of the light in each slide as I'm talking about a new light. So this is This is kind of very, very important. Rembrandt is, let me give you an example here. You see the, let me take it from off this thing. So light is somewhere here. When the light is falling on the subject, this part of the face. Now you look at the catch light here. Let me zoom this part in. Let me zoom this part in. You see the catch light here? Now if you see the catch light here, that means the source of light is somewhere here. Now at an angle, and the subject is also facing at a particular direction. Let's say subject is not looking in a particular direction. Then you will have to position the light in such a way that angle still gets created. This triangle, you see this? This is the triangle. Now, since I'm not using any reflector on this side or any fill light here, the shadows are harsh. If I do not want the harsh shadows, then don't worry. I can use reflector on somewhere this side and use the fill light from that reflector to fill these shadows. All right. Right now, no fill light is being used. That is helping you create slightly darker shadows and beautiful triangle on one cheek. All right. So this is the most important aspect. Then Janish, yeah, I'm answering this question. Is it necessary to use color checker passport or export disk for perfect white balance? Because I'm not included this in the presentation. Yes, it is important because the color temperature, especially in using strobes, if their CRI is not very good, you will get color cast and white balance will also shift. So it is very, very important that you use them. Very, very important. If you want to do quality work, if you're just experimenting, then it's all up to you what kind of experimentation and what quality you want to produce through that. Yes, it is, Janish, again, interesting questions you are asking, but unfortunately, these 2 hours are not enough. Wish I was there in the studio and showing you all these setups in live, real mode. But unfortunately, we can't do that today. So first time probably I'm sharing about fashion photography through all theoretical means. I know it is not the right way, but we are helpless right now. So light meter is very important because light meter will help you discover your exact aperture, shutter speed and ISO for a different kind of light. And it will also help you establish your lighting ratios, which will help you get beautiful background light as well. And for all these questions that you're asking, and others have also asked in past, I have one YouTube channel on which I have explained all this light meter and everything. You can go and check that. I will share the link at the end of the presentation. So you just click on, and in the end, I will share those links and you can go there. And there's one question on whether you should shoot RAW or JPEG. That is also answered there on YouTube. I've created a video. You can go there and check. I'm sorry, Rushang, you can't get this PPT. So you please start making notes if you haven't. Because PPT is private and I would not like it to go to anywhere else. Nitish, I would not say that only professionals. Right now, I am showing this presentation from Mac, but I have next to this, there is my main computer, which is a Windows based. My main computer that I use is a Windows based PC, which I use. I'm not very fond of Macs. So it's a myth that all professionals use Mac. No, they do not. I have used Mac. I have moved from Mac to Windows and I'm happy now. So don't get into that myth. How to get the best high key light photography? Just try and get hazy, holocast on all model edges. Probably your light, Rahul, was too strong. So start reducing the light intensity. All you need to do for high key is not over bright light. High key just means that it is devoid of shadows and rest of the effect that you try and achieve through post-processing. What gear I have? Okay, I did not want to focus on that, but I've not included any slides, so let me share right now the gear that I have. So I use Lumix S1 as my main camera, and my second body that I have is Lumix GH5, which also helps me create backstage images at times and video footage. And then I have 24-105, then I have 50 then I have 70-200, all Lumix. Then in terms of lighting, I use Godox AD200 Pro, AD600 Pro that I have. Then in terms of strobes, I do not use strobes now. I make use of these lights. And then for continuous light, I have light panels, LED panels of LED 500, LED 1000. Then I also have LC 500, which is the stick light, kind of an ice light that I have. And but I prefer using minimal light. So why I've chosen AD600 Pro is that it helps me create. And when I show you my images again after I finished this theoretical part, then you will know what I'm talking about. They are very beautiful. Kind of helps you get complete control over lighting. Okay. Okay, let me move on. There's something called split lighting. Now, split lighting is when you have one light gets split on the face. So one half of the face is brightly lit, receives all the light, and second half either is totally dark, depending on your concept, or receives very less light. And so there is the split happens right in the center of the face. So in this case, the subject is looking towards the camera. Camera is positioned right in front of the subject, and light source is on vertically on the side. So, and there is no reflector. Reflector you will use if you want, when you want to fill those shadows on the other side of the face. If you do not want to fill the shadows, no reflector. If you want to fill the shadows, then reflector or fill light, depending upon how much shadows you want to fill. Again, remember those lighting, fill light ratios that I mentioned initially. Now look at this. So light source is somewhere here. Camera is right in front. Let me try and zoom that again. You see this? Catch light. So catch light is the best way to figure it out. What is the light source? Light source is somewhere here. It is a broader light source with softbox and creating shadows here. There is some reflector or fill light being used here, which is the second on this side. On the eye, you can check, because the shadows are not very harsh, very dark, and there's a hint of some light on this cheek as well. So this is because of reflector, which is being used as a fill light. All right. This is important. Now, moving on. Rim lighting. So rim lighting, as the name suggests, it's on the edge. It's on the rim of the body. So it's also called profile lighting. So it is most people confuse it with the kicker light. Now, what is the difference between rim light and kicker light? So kicker light is used at the back of this subject, your model, and the light is thrown on the backside of the model, not on the background, on the backside of the model. So here from behind will be lit up. They help you separate the subject from your dark background. Let's say subject has black hair, model has black hair, and the subject and the background also is black. So one way is to light up the background. If you do not want to light up the background, if you want the background to remain dark, then you can use a kicker light by placing some light source behind the subject. Now, it is different than rim lighting. So rim lighting is on the side. So on the entire edge of the body is you're creating a thin layer of light. Now that is called rim light. So if you see, the light source is not right behind the subject. It is falling from diagonally from the sides towards the back end only. It is not towards the exact side of the subject, which will throw light on the back, but on the edge majorly. Main light is right in front and camera is right in front. You can change these positions of your camera, your key light, and your all these fill lights, keeping in mind what kind of effect you want. Let me repeat, I've been repeating this sentence from very beginning, that if you follow these 100%, it is good as a startup to learn, to get initial base understanding. But beyond that, you should be able to change, you should be able to shift the position of these lights and create your own unique angles of light. Because then only you will learn. Otherwise, you will not be able to learn. Okay. So now, rim lighting is something like this. You see, on the entire edge there is light. So this is called rim lighting. And you can go silhouettes also. There is no fill light, only rim light. So this also works. If light used with gel from side, it will not be called kicker light, Saurav. As I told you, that kicker light is right from behind. When you're using from side, it is clean to illuminate the side of the body. Now that will create a rim light. Kicker light is right at the back, which will help you separate your subject from the dark background without putting light on the background, without using background light. All right. So this is important. This is the only difference that is there. So just keep that in mind. Now, let me give you a few examples of what I have created. Any questions till now I can take up because, or maybe let me take up one question which is very important. Then I'll go to that examples and I'll start asking. Let me go to the question because. Yes, Jaspreet.
Hi, Jassi sir. I'm sorry for interruption.
Yeah.
We have Pratyush actually, and
Okay.
if you can give
Yeah,
some
Pratyush.
time.
Yeah, please take over.
No, you can finish this question and then after that you can start with.
नहीं, question बस यही है कि Jaspreet is asking, is ambient light mostly used to show emotions on the subject in photography? Yes, mostly dark moods is what when you want to project. Not very bright moods, but dark moods, usually it is used for that. Rembrandt light, when used on male face, it really makes him look very, very powerful and intense. So I think people have started using off late on a lot of female faces also, and nothing wrong in it. If as far as you are experimenting and getting your the results that you want. Yeah, Pratyush, you can take over. Then I'll continue with it. Hello.
Okay. Somehow we have disconnected, so he is joining just within a few seconds. Please just consider.
Okay. So let me see if any questions are there till the end. I did not talk about front lighting, Rushang, because I believe that front lighting is the easiest and the worst lighting that one can create. Front lighting needs no creativity. All you need is put the light right in front of the face and it removes all the shadows. And front light is used mostly for passport size and Aadhaar kind of images that you want to create. And that's not the right kind of light. It does not help you get creative. So I did not talk about that. See, first of all, 2 hours is too less, and theoretically, um, idea is to make you understand the creative angles of lighting. That is more important right now. Pratyush is right back or no?
Not yet. Sir, please continue. I guess he lost the connection.
All right. So there is Saurabh who's asking, is it necessary to use light meter for studio shoots? And if you don't have one, how will we know the correct exposure? See, finding exposure is not difficult without light meter. You will have to struggle, but you will find it out, because digital cameras give us that understanding. When you start understanding about how to read histogram into the camera after each image that you shoot, you will be able to manage exposure. The challenge is, let us say in one image, I have to use main light, key light, then I have to use a kicker light, which is second light. Then I have to use a fill light, which is the third light. Maybe second fill light, then this is the fourth light. Then I have to use background light, that is the fifth light. And if the power of all these 5 lights is equal, then it becomes flat. It doesn't work. So how to choose the power of each light accurately without wasting time, that is where your light meter in today's scenario will be irreplaceable. You cannot do it on your own without light meter. So, which means, to simplify my answer, if you want to gain complete control over lighting, multiple lights, and if you want to improve the quality of the image that you are trying to create, fashion photography image, then light meter is important. Yes, initially it's an expensive equipment, gadget. So I would not recommend that you start doing with that. So you first, camera itself is expensive, camera, one basic lens, start with something. And gradually, as you see you progressing and improving, you will opt for light meter as well. But there's no point buying that initial stages. You can still manage things. All right. While shooting indoor and using external lights, how can I avoid reflection on eyeglasses? That's the difficult answer. That is not easy to handle also. So changing angle, because there's no thumb rule to it. Reflection on the glasses depend upon the source of light and its angle. If I'm shooting only in studio without any external or ambient light, then I can change the height of the main light or whatever is creating that reflection with respect to my position as a photographer as well, and I'll be able to manage it. But if I'm shooting in natural light, then I have no way. The only way will depend upon the position of the light with respect to the subject which is creating the reflection, and you can change that and experimenting with it, and you will be able to figure it out. Can you please revise all topics?
Yes. Prakash is here, sir. If you want, he can start actually.
Pardon?
I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. How are you?
Prakash is here.
I'm good. I'm good. So Pratyush ji, आपने आना है तो आप आ जाइए.
So he can start.
Right, right. Sir,
Can you hear me?
Mumbai is a very, very bad weather today. We have very
Prakash?
unstable internet. Hello.
Please carry.
Yeah. So Rajesh ji, I'll quickly share my screen. Just allow me a moment.
I'll have to stop sharing that. Let me just stop.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, now you can.
So good afternoon, everyone. And Jassi sir, wonderful session. Last time we met, we were talking about landscape, magical landscapes, I should say. And today I'm seeing a completely different side of you, that is in fashion and portraits and lighting. So guys, it's very true. If you have a very keen knowledge on lighting, you can definitely pull out good landscapes and portraits and fashion as well. And that is exactly where Jassi sir stands. So nice to see your images. I've been seeing your images. And so I'll quickly tell something about why I'm here. So I'm Pratyush, I'm from Panasonic Mumbai, and I'll quickly take you through this Panasonic lineup of our cameras. Now, on the extreme right-hand side, I'll start with the extreme right-hand side camera first. That is the VeriCam 35 mm cinema camera. So why I'm saying this, because the upcoming cameras which I'll show you, they are they're like a hereditary cameras of these segments. So these are dedicated cinema cameras. And then going to these cameras, we have embedded the cinema technology in our Micro Four Thirds series camera. So Panasonic Lumix comes with two main segments. One is the Micro Four Thirds series, and the second is the full frame series. So what you're looking at, that is the Micro Four Thirds series of the cameras. And then we have the full frame segment. So in full frame, we have the S1, S1R, and S1H. And Justice sir personally shooting on an S1R, right, sir?
Now I'm on S1.
Okay, S1. So
I'm
Jassi sir likes to shoot on S1, and we have roughly 6 lenses which are compatible with the full frame segment. That is the Leica mount. And in the Micro Four Thirds series, we have the GH5, GH5S on the higher side, and we recently came out with the G9, which is the latest addition to our Micro Four Thirds segment. So why I'm talking about these things is because first is the lens. The image quality is definitely dependent on the lens, and the optics are coming from the company Leica. I believe all of us are very well versed and very well acquainted with this company Leica. And then the sensors there. So the kind of color reproduction you find on this camera is again class apart quality. Talking about the engine is basically the image processor of the camera. In other brands, we might have heard about different variants or the segments or the generations of the sensor. But in this case, in Lumix case, the Venus engine, which is there in the cinema series cameras, in the VeriCam cameras, in the EVA 1 cameras, and all the cinema cameras, the same processor, the same image quality, the same color reproduction system, the same color palette has been introduced and embedded on our Micro Four Third and our full frame segment of the camera. So that is something different in our cameras. Now, what you're looking at right now, on the left-hand side, if you notice, we have an alliance between Leica, Sigma, and Panasonic. So the full frame segment has this L mount, which is the full frame lens mount, which is taken from the Leica camera. So which means that on the Lumix full frame camera, you can put the Leica lens directly. You don't need any converter for that. And similarly, if you've got a Leica full frame camera, you can put the Panasonic lenses or the Lumix full frame lenses directly on your Leica cameras as well. The second thing is the alliance between Panasonic and Sigma. Sigma is our official partner, and it has come up with almost 18 or 23 lenses which are directly compatible with the Leica mount or with the L mount, which is given on the Lumix full frame segment. So these two companies have partnered with Panasonic. That is how there's an alliance between Panasonic, Sigma, and Leica. And as most of us know, the company is over 100 years old. Now, if you notice on the right-hand side top corner, you can see the Panasonic has been the official partner for the Olympics. But for some reason, or I should say the reasons which we already know, we cannot do the Olympics this year because of COVID situation. Else, we were about to introduce and announce the 8K anamorphic sensor this year, that too in the Olympics. So as of now, we have got the 4K 30p, we have got 4K 60p, we have got the 8K and 6K cameras with us. The S1H happens to be the flagship camera on the Lumix full frame segment, which is Netflix approved, and it can shoot 6K, it can shoot ProRes, it can shoot RAW, it can shoot cinema. You can even customize the camera to imitate your pro grade cinema camera, which also means you can put settings like shutter angle, you can use linear focus, you can use vlog in it. So what is vlog? That is a flat picture profile or a color profile given on the camera, used for post production and color grading in the cinema pipeline. And when recently we came out with this new series of cameras, that is the CX7 and CX8. These are the world's first lightest compact cameras which can shoot 4K 60p, and these can do live video, which means you can connect this camera through your cell phone, of course through a hotspot, and you can stream a live video from any part of the world, and those videos can be streamed live on your social media platforms. It can be YouTube, it can be Facebook, it can be your own website. You just have to embed that URL in the camera, and the camera is ready to go live without any problem. So you do not need any capture card or any hardware device in order to stream. That is the plus point with this camera. You can put external microphone in it, and the camera comes with an inbuilt LED light on the handle. So even if you're shooting in low light situations, or you're shooting in comparatively a darker situation, you can use the inbuilt light. You don't have to put an external light on that. There's an inbuilt diffuser in the light, so you can take the diffuser out and you can increase the amount of light by simply taking the diffuser out. So what is a diffuser? What happens without a diffuser? Jesse is the right person to answer on that, since we are talking about lighting. So that's pretty much from my side. And thank you so much for giving this time and opportunity. So, sir, please carry on, and we'll definitely like to hear more about fashion and portraits now.
All right. Thank you, Pratyush. That was wonderful. And so I am enjoying using my S1. So yeah, it's a fabulous camera. I must say that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now let me come back to the presentation, because now we have 15 minutes. I would like to finish it as well, and then ask the questions as well. So first, I'll come to the, there's one question that I wanted to answer, which was on the inverse square law of light. Somebody asked, I can't find that right now. Somebody asked that what is inverse square law of light? Now that is very important when you want to understand lighting. What happens is, I have also shared one thing. Just listen to me attentively. When the distance between the subject and the light source increases, what happens? The light intensity goes down. So light fall off happens, and the quantity of light, amount of light falling on the subject reduces. Now, by how much? Reduces is a fact. How much is science? Now, this is what the inverse square law mentions. And this is very, very important. Now, light is always calculated in photography in terms of f-stops, all right? So let us say right now I am at f8. I'm using f8 as an aperture to get the right kind of exposure. Now, the light moves or is moved away farther from the subject by a certain distance. Let us say by double the distance. Now, right now, the distance between the subject and the light is 1 meter, and the subject moves away or the light moves away by 1 more meter, making the distance double. My mind tells me the fact is that light is going to go down, all right? But how much? My mind tells me it will go half. Now, if I had the understanding of my f-stops, then to compensate for that light loss and keep the exposure same, from f8, I will go to f5.6. One stop, change. Now that means whatever loss of light happened, I will gain that much of light. But actually it does not happen that way. The light reduces by square of the distance. Now, this is the inverse square law of this. Square of the distance means if the distance is increased by double, the light gets reduced by 1/4. It does not get reduced by half. 1/4. What does it mean? Now I have to, it is reduced 4 times than the initial. So I will have to use 2 stops. So I will have to go to f4. This understanding is very, very important and very critical in when you're trying to shoot very fast without having to bother about getting the right exposure or not. So especially if you're shooting weddings, or especially when you're shooting fast without much time at your hand, this understanding will come in very handy. All right. So this is about it. Now coming to the kind of images that I had, let me start sharing that. Now this image is shot without using any additional light. There was a on if I look here, this on this side there was a large window, very large window, and the entire light, all the curtains were removed, entire light was falling on this part of the model. Now the walls were also white, so internal reflection was happening. So the fill light also, for fill light also, I need not put any reflector whatsoever. So the white wall on this side was acting as a reflector and throwing light back onto the face. Very simple, nothing used at all. And yet a decent fashion image depicting the kind of fabric as well. Now, if I need to cut down the light on here, then I will probably close down the window slightly or use diffusers in between the window and the model. All right. So this is how, that is why I continue to say that theory is important. Practice using those theoretical examples, but in real, you must experiment. All right. Now, this is another example of using only natural light here. Let me try and zoom in. If you look in the eyes, there is the catch light is showing that this is the direction of the light. So sun was somewhere here, but it was an overcast sky. So no harsh light, nothing. And if you see the highlights on this bone, it is pointing towards this. So obviously the light direction was from somewhere here. There's a very slight subdued shadow. So all I did was to place a reflector somewhere on this direction so that the shadows get filled up. That's it. And since light, if you look at the background here, the light is not harsh at all. It was a cloudy day. So cloudy day, outdoor fashion shoot will work beautifully. You will enjoy, provided again you understand light. If you don't understand light, I'm sorry, this presentation or any other presentation or any other workshop is going to go zero. Understand light. All right. How to light if I want to shoot something like, okay, let me take questions little later. Okay. Now this is, any guesses? This is confusion here. Anybody? And Q&A, please come on Q&A because I'm on full screen. I can't look at the chat. If anybody wants to answer what is the light that I have used here, please answer it here. Because there is, okay, let me give you a hint. Because there is natural light, very strong sunlight was also there. And I've used additional light as well. All right. Let me check. It appears to be split light, but actually it is not. You're getting split light. I'm not wanting to know the category of the lighting setup. I am wanting to know from which direction the sun was coming and from which direction I have used the light. Okay, to make it simple now, look at the shadows here. This is some parapet wall. The shadow is getting formed here. That means the sun was coming from here. And if you check this, also the sun is coming from this direction. you look at this, the sun is coming from this direction. All I needed to do was position the light somewhere here, which was fill light. And because it was very harsh light, very harsh light. So sun was very strong. It was shot in some summer time, sometime in the mid noon and noon time. And I had to use AD 600 Pro to neutralize the power of sunlight and get the shadows filled here. So if you see, the light on this side of the face is not from sunlight, it is from AD 600 Pro, which is positioned somewhere here at full power. And even at full power, if you see on the legs, it is little shadows. It is not as bright as the sunlight, which is lighting up this part of the leg. All right, so this is how you understand light and use light. So in this, only one light, which is AD 600 Pro, is what I have used. Now look at this. There was this concept that we were shooting where we wanted to show that, and this was shot again in very harsh light, very harsh sunlight in mid-summer day, almost around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Very strong light. There were no clouds in the sky. We were almost melting. There was and sun was, if you look at it, if I look at the shadows, the sun was coming from somewhere on top of this direction and lighting up this face. But the shadows were getting formed here. Shadows were getting formed. Let me zoom in. The shadows, look at this. They were almost very harsh shadows. So what we did is position the AD 600 Pro with Octa, fitted with Octa box, right in front of this. Let's say I'm facing the screen right now. That is where the position of the light was, at a higher angle, and using full power so that the shadows don't overpower. So I had to fill these shadows and used only one light, which is AD 600 Pro full strength with the Octa box. All right. So only one, so natural light plus fill light. If I wanted to replace the natural light, then it will become flat. Right now there are enough shadows, and we have managed to retain textures in all whites wherever you can see. If you see this part, there is white texture. This is white texture. This is white texture. So they are visible. White details in white are visible. All right. AD 600 Pro, Nitish. Fashion, my work is usually there on my website. My Instagram profile these days shows more of landscape. I have started another kind of, but I'm not very regular there on Instagram, portraits by Jassi. But I'll be posting all these images and my future work there as well. All right. So let me come back to the next image. Now look at this image. This is, how will you read light here? You see the shadow here. That means the light source is somewhere here. Now, if you want to be fast, look at the position of the catch light. Catch light is here. Let me zoom in. You see this? You see this shape of the catch light? It is Octa. This is Octa with AD 600 Pro. AD 600 Pro is my favorite go-to light. And very maximum of the time I will be using that only because I don't want to move around or use too much complicated lights. And Octa helps me wrap the light around on the face as well, on the body of the model as well. So bring it, keep changing the direction with respect to the model, and you will see the light changing. And if you look at the forehead, it shows you that it's a large source of light. That's why it is softer. That's why I used large Octa, which is diffusing the small actual light source, the light panel in AD 600 Pro. All right. There is no reflector used here. There is no fill light used here. You can see from the eyes also, there is no second source of light visible anywhere as catch light. This is very interesting lighting setup here I've used. I wanted to create a harsh, defined shadow of the model falling on the background, and that too getting separated from the model. It is not merging with the model. So how did I do it? This was AD600 Pro probably, if I remember it right, without the Octa or softbox. So it is a harsh light that was used, and if you can see this on the here, this harsh light here as well. So the harsh shadows also getting created. Look at this. This shows that the light source is not very high, because had it been higher than this, then the model, then the position of the shadow will also become longer on the neck. It is ending abruptly and going back. That means it is almost at the level of the face of the model. And how do I create the shadow distinct? I have to move away. I have to change the position, my position as a photographer, and you will see the shadow moving. This is how you create this. So in this case, it was a very harsh light that was used, no diffuser, nothing. And here in the next image, I will show you kind of a loop light, same kind of lighting setup, but moving the model a little far away and using cutters and blockers to block the light from falling on the background. And if I zoom in, you see the loop is getting formed here. Do you see this? That means, and the shadow of the eyelid is also falling in this direction. That means it is a loop light that I have used, very harsh loop light, which I have used, and kind of very contrasty, but used on the full body length. Why I'm not including the full body? Because the light fall off was drastic beyond the thighs, and the legs were looking very dark. So had I wanted that, I would have to use another light source to fill up the light on the legs also. Now this is very interesting image. The model is not lit up from front at all. If you see behind, you will see the spikes of the octa, large octa. I think that was of, I'm not remembering the brand of the octa. So light was from behind. So that was used as a background and kicker in itself, one single light. And we had large reflector right in front, which was reflecting the light and throwing it back on the face. That's it. Very simple. Very, very unique kind of setup also. So you can get creative with your setups. If you look at this, this is shot in Goa on the pool of the hotel, and the model is lying down on the pool, some parts on the pool, but no other light. All we were doing was that right beside me, there was one guy who was holding the reflector, so that I would ask the guy to move the reflector in such a way that harsh shadows are avoided. All right. Rest is everything is natural light. Here, no reflector also. This is pure sunset timing, and on the beach in Goa, and the light is lighting up the model completely. All we had to do was ask her to keep an angle in such a way that the harsh shadows are not getting formed anywhere. You can use natural light only. Now this, let me zoom in and you will know what I'm trying to talk. You see this part? This is the main source of light falling from top. So it is almost like the first lighting setup that I shared was paramount or glamour or butterfly lighting. But the shadow is getting formed here under the nose, which is getting filled up by the reflector. You can see the reflector here. So she is holding the reflector in her hand. And this is helping me diffuse the shadows. All right. Okay. Now coming to the next image. This is one of my very old images. Was shot in St. Petersburg Aqua Studio. And this is a different kind of studio. In the studio itself, it's a proper fashion studio. But in the studio itself, there is provision to shoot or to use water sprays and buckets of water. You can play around with water throughout. So the light is slightly different. But if you see the light is here on top, and another light source is throwing the light here to use the rim light, create a rim light on this side, and that is enough. And water spray is getting thrown, so water droplets are also getting lit up there. You see this? This is kind of a variation in Rembrandt lighting. So variation in that, because apart from the triangle getting formed here, I also wanted a shadow getting formed on this side. So two lights used, and if I have to zoom in, this is a large octa used from this side, and the second light to fill here is actually slightly behind the model's back, so that it does not even give the catch light as well. So you see the light is not falling here, but light is falling on this part, so which is slightly behind the model, and this light is also falling on this side of the hair, but not here on this part of the hair. So this is how you experiment with the combination of key light and fill light. Very simple lighting setup. It is almost like a paramount light. You see the butterfly shape getting formed, but there's a diffusion happening. There is fill light there, which is diffusing the shadows. All right. Thank you. I will take up the questions. So these are my links, my website. You will see some work. And YouTube channel details are there. You can actually go there and check a lot of videos where I'm teaching a lot of stuff regarding even screen calibrations and lighting setups, and I'm talking about it, and many more videos will come. Let me start taking questions now. Thank you, Jaspreet. Instagram name is, let me answer in chat. Let me first, okay. Before I stop screen share, just note down that today itself, there is one more workshop that is happening by Abhishek Singh. It is on building photography portfolio, building and branding. That's going to be interesting session. Probably even I will try and attend, because this is going to be some very, very unique. So do not forget to attend this session. Just note down the timing, 6 p.m. today, and join and learn from him. All right. I hope you've noted this down as well. And so Instagram, my main is this, but if you want to see portraits, though there's not much work there, it's by portraits by Jassi. You will find that out, and you can search and you will find it out. And probably, but I will be more regular with posting my fashion images also there. All right. So let me stop sharing. Let me answer some questions. Please share YouTube link. I've already shared. Let me share that in chat as well. Is www.youtube.com/c/exploring light. LIGST. All panelists and attendees. This is my YouTube. I have mentioned in chat. All right. Do you use any filters for fashion? What do you mean by filters? Slide number 35, 36, 37. This is one. Let me try and share again. 35, 36, 37. What are those? 35 is this. Okay. This is one. If you see, it's a butterfly lighting. You can see the shape of this diffuse shadow under the nose. Very simple lighting setup, but with reflector being used by her. She's holding it so that shadows are reduced. Then 36 you are saying, okay? 36. This is one of my very old images, and but Aqua Studio, so water droplets you can see getting lit up. So this is the source of light from here. And from here, there's one fill light being used, or almost like the rim lighting, which is being used here. And that's it. That's it. Very directional use of light. 37, this is a little complicated lighting setup. Even if I explain, you will not be able to understand. Wish I could explain it and show you practically. But octa is being used here on this part, slightly from behind, using a grid on that so that the light fall off is minimized. And I'm using the fill light right from behind, not from the side of the model, so that the light fall off does not happen on this part of the face. And there are blockers and cutters also being used on that light to avoid the light getting filling up this part of the shadow. And it is kind of a almost in between the spill light and the Rembrandt light. So I'm trying to get a mix of something like that. All right. So I'm stopping the share again, and then I'll go to the questions. All right. What are the question? हमको कैसे पता चले कि शूट में लाइटिंग पैटर्न को यूज करना है, मतलब हाउ टू चूज करेक्ट? देयर इज नो वे टू करेक्ट, जेनिश. There are two reasons why you shoot. One is that you shoot for a client, then you will know that what is that client wants, and you will choose the lighting as per that. Second is that you are experimenting, then any lighting you pick up and start experimenting. There is no third reason for it. All right. So your go-to lens for portraits, I'm very fond of 50 mm, and I use that. I'm not very fond of you having multiple lenses, so I do not have 85 mm. 50 mm I manage between 50 mm, I manage, and 24-105 lens and 70-200. These three lenses I manage, and I think I find them enough. Not an issue. Insight into high sync speed. High sync speed is when I am able to, there's a sync speed of the flash, all right? So usually it hovers around, sync speed means the shutter should open or synchronize with the flash firing, all right? So when the flash fires, shutter should open. The moment flash stops, the shutter should close. It should synchronize. And that shutter speed is somewhere around 1/125 to 1/200, usually around that range. Now that does not help me in many situations. So I want to use high sync speed. I want to blur the background using high sync speed, and it could be many other reasons. And I used to, for example, even to neutralize that harsh light, I need HSS. That is when I will need a flash which supports HSS. That is how I can go to shutter speeds beyond 1/150 or 200, even up to going up to 1/6000. Sometimes most of the HSS that I've used is around 1/4000 and all, not beyond that. I'm not there's no need. But yes, it can help you go up to that. All right. Then there are chat. Okay, you guys are. If I have to buy 2 strobes that I can use for outdoor fashion shoots. Outdoor fashion shoot, I would not recommend traditional strobes because you will find it difficult to get source of light, power points and all. So you will, I would recommend use AD200 Pro or AD400 Pro or Woodhouse AD600 Pro. That will help you because they are all battery operated, and that will help you get complete control. With I would prefer AD600 Pro with some reflectors and maybe one AD200 Pro that will be used as a fill light. I think that is enough. In Hindi, वीरेंद्र जी, मेरी YouTube पे भी कुछ हिंदी में है. You can check that. Otherwise, you can just type in Google that whatever you want to learn in Hindi, then you will get to understand the. You will get the links. Post processing in fashion shoot. I do not believe in too much of post processing because I do not want to keep the skin look plastic. So here, just understand using Lightroom is enough. You should be able to know how to fix your white balance in post processing, how to fix distortion in post processing, how to open up shadows, manage highlights in post processing. These 4 things, and 5th thing is that you should be able to smoothen the skins and scars from face. That is enough to do in post processing. Beyond that is a high professional work, and yes, you will require that as well as you start progressing and improving in your fashion photography as well. I think yes, Deepak, Lightroom initially, yes. Later on, as you see, try and understand everything as a progression. So I don't know, Deepak, what is your level of in fashion photography, but if you are already doing it from few years and you are not getting satisfying results from Lightroom, you will have to proceed to Photoshop. But if you are beginning right now and you are wanting to process your beauty images that you are shooting now, Lightroom is more than enough to begin with. All right, I think we are already 20 minutes ahead. Photoshop Express app to edit pictures. Yes, it is good. On the go, this thing, probably. So guys, I think, Mukeshji, I'm done. If you want me to stick for another couple of minutes for questions, or you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, we can wind up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Jassi ji. And it was really amazing session. And thanks for accepting our request and doing it. Thank you very much, Lumix,
Thank you
for supporting it. And guys, please join me to say thanks to Jassi ji once again. Please do follow him. He has some amazing content available on his different channels. He's one of you who had been creating online content even before this lockdown situation started. So he's one of those, probably they knew that something of this sort was going to happen. Okay, but he never told to anyone. So guys, please type on chat. Thank you to Jassi ji. And Jassi ji, it was really amazing.
Let me be honest, Mukeshji, that it was not easy for me because till now, whatever I've done in fashion photography in terms of workshop, I have always explained everything practically, being there with the model and light and explaining. Explaining like this, it took me some brainstorming to do and share something, because it is very, very difficult to share what's going on in my mind while I'm trying to explain that.
So, yes,
yeah,
absolutely. And some of the things which he is pioneer is on the post processing on Lightroom and Photoshop. That is, please have a look. And the portraiture on street photography, you name a different genre. Jassi ji has worked on that, and he been a good teacher, mentor to many of us, and that took a long time.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Mukesh.
Thank you, and thank you for Lumix. One more thing, guys, your certificates, those who are looking to get a certificate for this event, please go online to our site events.chiiz.com. There you would find a link uh, to request a certificate. Give us around 10 days to process that. You will get it in your email along with a copy of our magazine. We will send you a copy of the magazine, a digital subscription, 1 month, and a certificate. And yes, as Jassi mentioned, today we have another session by Abhishek Singh. The same link will work, join.chiiz.com, on which you have joined. So same link, you can join again in that session too. That's it from our side, Jassi.